Can a driver lose the title and still come out as the big moral winner of the season? Because that's exactly what Max Verstappen did in Abu Dhabi. Was it a bomb against Norris? Or a much deeper warning for all of McLaren? Max Verstappen did not arrive in Abu Dhabi as a defeated driver. He arrived as a three-time world champion with a thirst to command respect. Despite not being leading the championship, his attitude was that of a calculating hunter, not that of a desperate prey. And that was noticeable from the days before the final race. What seemed like a simple warning in the previous press conference, when he said that the McLarens better take care of themselves at the start, was much more than that. It was a cold, deliberate, surgical pressure maneuver. Saying that the McLarens had to be careful in the first corner was much more than a hidden threat. It was a reminder to everyone inside and outside the paddock. Max is not going to race to please narratives. He is not there to respect the script of the new kids vying for glory. He is not the supporting actor. If he is on pole, he will defend it as if he were fighting for his life. That's his mentality. He doesn't know any other way to compete. The checkered flag had already fallen in Abu Dhabi. The title was decided. Lando Norris was world champion by just 2 points. But while the paddock celebrated with champagne and smiles, Max Verstappen spoke with an almost chilling calm. Without raising his voice, without attacking directly, he constructed a diagnosis as precise as it was devastating. Because sometimes you don't need to scream to destroy. Simply expose the cracks with a surgeon's light. In the subsequent press conference, Verstappen congratulated Norris. He called him a worthy champion. And in doing so, he made it clear that there was no personal resentment. There was no envy, just facts. A title is won in 24 races, not just one, he said. And in that phrase he encapsulated the tone of his message. Respect for the result, but without granting the emotional or symbolic throne. Because Max knew he had won in pure performance that last race. That his Red Bull was the most solid car on Sunday. That, in terms of pressure, he came out on top. But the true value of his words was not in what he said explicitly. It was in what he let on. In which he decided not to remain silent. When asked why he didn't use more aggressive strategies to hurt Norris, like Lewis Hamilton did in 2016 with Nico Rosberg, Max was clear. The conditions were not met. Reading between the lines is powerful. If I wanted to, if the context allowed it, I would have done it. Not out of malice, but out of absolute understanding of the game. Verstappen understands Formula One not as a series of fast laps, but as a political, technical, and psychological chessboard. And that's where he pointed his laser. Not Norris as a driver. Not Piastri as a rival. But to the functioning of McLaren as a system. He said it without embellishment. The Woking team has a car capable of winning championships, but it still does not have the mental and strategic structure to sustain that pressure seamlessly. He pointed out dubious decisions on the wall, moments of indecision on the track, small errors that in a season of 24 races become mountains. He even slipped in a phrase that resonated throughout the paddock. I, with that McLaren, would have won the title before arriving here. It is a devastating sentence not because it attacks, but because it raises a possibility that many were already considering. That McLaren, with its aerodynamic superiority and traction in high-speed corners, was on more than one occasion the car to beat. And that Norris's talent, although immense, still needs to be sharpened at the limit moments. And that Piastri, technically brilliant, did not always know how to be a squire or a leader as needed. But this diagnosis goes beyond the technical. It has deeply human roots. Max not only evaluated the rival team, evaluated the culture of a project. And in doing so, he positioned himself as someone who understands that winning is not about a car, but about a mindset. A culture that he and Red Bull, no matter how many ups and downs they experienced, have been able to build and maintain for years. That cultural difference, invisible in top speed graphs or telemetry, is what Verstappen really wanted to highlight. That McLaren, if it wants to dominate, will have to be more than a team with brilliant engineers and a competitive chassis. It will have to be an ecosystem protected from pressure. And before him. And the latter is important, because even without the title, Max closed the season as someone who projects control. He didn't lose the championship. He allowed someone else to win it, which is very different. The difference is in the language, in the attitude, in the way you answered questions. Norris celebrated, yes. But it was Max who spoke with the authority of someone who knows he is still the man to beat. That next year, if conditions change just a little, he will be back on top. That is the true diagnosis. One that is not printed in the newspapers or shouted on social networks. One heard in the way a champion, even in defeat, never loses the narrative. Because while some celebrate a victory, others are already building the next one. On the surface, the 2025 Abu Dhabi GP closed out a season. But for Max Verstappen, it was the prologue to another story. A much more complex one. One that is already underway. Because while McLaren celebrates Lando Norris championship and the press elevates him as a new heir to the F1 throne, Max is operating on another plane. The one who doesn't need headlines to dominate. The one who throws bombs that do not explode at the moment, but whose shockwave shakes the following season. The vast majority of the paddock saw Verstappen lose the title by 2 points. But very few understood what he really left behind. In each interview, in each technical analysis, in each word measured after the race, Max constructed a story. Not revenge, not from anger, but a warning. And that warning, directed with surgical precision, goes to McLaren, to Norris, to Piastri, and to anyone who thinks they have seen him at his weakest. Because if this season has made anything clear, it is that Max Verstappen does not need a dominant car to be a real contender. He demonstrated it in adverse circuits. He confirmed it on difficult weekends. And he consolidated it in Abu Dhabi, where, without pressure, without need for results, he simply won. With forcefulness, with total control. As if he wanted to say, if this were 2026, I would be champion today. And it's not just a feeling. It's a strategic move. In his post-race analysis, Max did not talk about the immediate future in empty phrases. He spoke about internal dynamics at McLaren. He talked about vulnerabilities. He talked about the kind of things a dominant team never lets on. And in doing so, he revealed what really matters to him. Understanding where he can break his rivals. This is key for what is to come. Because McLaren, although it achieved the championship, leaves 2025 with more questions than answers. Their car was the fastest on multiple weekends, but they didn't always know how to capitalize on that advantage. Its pilots, although fast, showed lack of coordination at critical moments. There was internal tension. There were question wall decisions. And Verstappen saw it all. He processed it. He filed it. He knows that the biggest enemy of a championship team is not on the court. It's inside. In the fracture that opens when there is more pressure than union. And McLaren is right there, at that point where a brilliant team can become a fragile one if it does not evolve. Max, without saying it, already pointed there. Because your true strategy is not just technical. It is structural. It's politics. It's psychological. And Red Bull, although hit by the internal transition, by the poor performance of its second drivers, and by the technical problems of the RB21, has shown that it still has the tools that can be recovered, that can rebuild. And above all, it has a driver who does not need a perfect car to challenge the best project of the year. In an era where margins are minimal, that type of driver is pure gold. The most disturbing thing is this: Verstappen has shown no signs of mental wear and tear. On the contrary, this season, instead of affecting it, seems to have strengthened it. He seemed comfortable even in discomfort. And that, for any rival, is a monumental problem. Because if you can't get him off his axis when he loses, how will you do it when he starts winning? Looking ahead to 2026, the bomb is already activated. Not with a bang, but with a countdown. Verstappen is already installing the speech, the focus, the pressure. He knows that the new regulations are just around the corner. He knows that Red Bull is going to pour resources into the new car. And above all, he knows that if McLaren does not evolve its team culture, its 2025 title will be remembered as an exception, not the beginning of an era. And so, what Max left in Abu Dhabi was not a defeat. It was a silent threat, a promise, a warning to the rest of the paddock. Don't underestimate me. Don't write me off. I'm just starting over. The 2026 season hasn't started yet, but Max Verstappen is already shaping it. Not with fast laps. With something much more powerful. Narrative, pressure, and total control of the invisible. The story of Abu Dhabi 2025 did not end at the finish line. It ended in the gestures, in the words, in what was said, and in what was left unsaid. Because while Lando Norris raised his arms and celebrated his first world title, Max Verstappen was already writing the first chapter of what is to come. And he did it without the need for controversy. No outbursts. Only with facts, with silent dominance, with statements that echo long after the circuit lights go out. But now the question is for you. Because this is the moment where history is not only observed, it is interpreted. Do you think Verstappen went too far with his statements? Or is he simply saying what many think and no one dares to acknowledge? Is it arrogance, or is it true when he says that with Norris's McLaren he would have won sooner? Is it an unnecessary provocation or a brutal X-ray of what separates the great drivers? from the complete champions? Your opinion matters. Because this is not just about numbers, points, statistics. It's about understanding the game behind the game. What really makes the difference in modern Formula One? The talent? Of course it matters. The machine? Of course. But in an era where all cars are closer than ever and where every 10th counts, the minds of the drivers are the last great differentiator. And Max Verstappen has shown that even when he doesn't win the championship, he can dominate the narrative. It can come out stronger. It can set the tone for what is to come. While others celebrate the present, he is already shaping the future. So I want you to tell me in the comments, who do you see as stronger heading into 2026? Do you think McLaren has what it takes to start an era? Or are you convinced this was just a pause in the Verstappen dynasty? Let me know in the comments what you think about all this.